Good evening. Pastor David Settles was not able to make it this evening. He sent me a message and his apologies. So as chaplain, I'm going to fill in. So if you would, please bow your heads. Most all-wise God, we stand before you this evening to say thank you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here today. We know that you're the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We want to say thank you for those that always puts their lives on the line to protect us all. We're always forever grateful. I ask you to bless our meeting tonight, and as always, I ask you for guidance and wisdom in all of our decision making, not just this evening, but every day and in every way. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. If our actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, we are all leaders. With this being the month of February, deemed the love month, I ask that you increase the love within all of our hearts. Help us to love our neighbors, help us to love our families, and help us to love our communities more. So let us all stick with love, because hate is too big of a burden to bear. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
If you would still remain, please standing. I'm going to bring to the podium 3 of MTSU's gospel choir, Miss Kyla Overton, Marshall Hall III, and Cavante Owens. They are going to grace us with our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The brave.
Thank you so much. Now you may be seated. This time I'll call on our Rutherford County Clerk, Lisa Crowell. Call the roll. Lisa, please.
Commissioner Oliver,
Present.
Commissioner Piercy,
Here.
Commissioner Rather,
Here.
Commissioner P,
Here.
Commissioner Davison,
Here.
Commissioner Beverly,
Here.
Commissioner Cush,
Present.
Commissioner Reed,
Here.
Commissioner James, Commissioner Wilson,
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Boyd,
Here.
Commissioner Paul Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Irving,
Here.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Commissioner Dodd,
Here.
Chairman Phillips,
Present.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner McMurry,
Here.
Commissioner Gooch, Commissioner Trevino.
Yeah.
We have a quorum, 20 present.
Thank you, Lisa. Commissioner James, Joshua James, his guard unit has been called to active duty. He's on special assignment, so I'd like for us to remember, while they're on active duty, if you would remember Commissioner Joshua James and his guard unit. Don't know when they'll be back, but however long that they're gone, they're serving a higher calling than this. Thank you, Joshua, for your service to Rutherford County. We put a proclamation together in honor of Black History Month and our holiday on Monday, President's Day, and I forgot to put it on the agenda, so without objection, I'm adding it to our agenda at this time. And once again, without objection, I'll call on our Chairman Pro-Tem, Trey Gooch, for the reading of this proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. On behalf of Mayor Joe Carr and Chairman Jeff Phillips, I have a proclamation for your consideration this evening. Whereas the citizens of Rutherford County are proud to come together to celebrate observances that are meaningful to the history of our state and nation, and whereas our community is enriched by citizens of every race, religion, color, and heritage, and whereas during the month of February, we are joined with our fellow Tennesseans and Americans across the great nation to commemorate Black History Month. And whereas Black History Month is a time to recognize the important heritage and achievements of African Americans and the contributions that African Americans have made and continue to make to our nation, our state, and our local communities. And whereas Black History Month is a time to remember the history of African Americans' struggle for civil rights and equality under the law. And whereas in 1862, President Lincoln called upon the people of the United States to solemnize and celebrate the anniversary of the birth of George Washington, February 22nd, 1732, by reading aloud his farewell address. And whereas, as the father of the United States of America, it is proper to commemorate the birth date of President Washington, who in his farewell address advised the name of Americans, which belongs to you in your national capacity, must always exalt the just pride of patriotism. And whereas due to the significance of our presidents, it is proper to recognize their service to our country, now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, the government and citizens of Rutherford County, Tennessee, hereby join in celebrating Black History Month during the month of February 2024, and further resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, the government and citizens of Rutherford County, Tennessee, hereby join in celebrating the presidents of our great nation on February the 19th, 2024, approved and adopted by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners on this 15th day of February 2024. I so move, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have two very special recognitions tonight, both for extraordinary service and leadership. The first will be presented by Commissioner Hope Oliver. Commissioner Oliver.
Good evening. It is my pleasure for us to recognize Ms. Sumatra Drayton during this Black History Month for her extraordinary service to our county. So, Ms. Drayton, if you and your family could join me, please. Hi, welcome. Whereas the celebration of Black History Month is a positive way of recognizing the culture and history of African Americans as vital to the core beliefs and values of our society, and whereas the contributions of African Americans have been vital to the growth and development of Rutherford County, Tennessee, the Rutherford County Mayor and Board of Commissioners would like to recognize Sumatra Branham Drayton, RRTED, for her contributions to Rutherford County, Tennessee. And whereas Sumatra Branham Drayton served the youth of Rutherford County with dedication and a commitment to excellence for 25 years as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal. And whereas Mrs. Drayton began her career as a respiratory therapist, her first profession teaching position was at Tennessee State University, where she taught for 12 years. Mrs. Drayton joined Rutherford County Schools in 1999 as a health science teacher for 7 years at Laverne High School. Mrs. Drayton served in the first class of graduation coaches for Rutherford County Schools at Laverne High School. In 2008, she was promoted to assistant principal at Christiana Middle School. After 4 years under the tutelage of Dr. John Ash and Mr. Robert Horn, she began her tenure as the principal at Holloway High School. And whereas, under Mrs. Drayton's leadership, Holloway High School remains one of the Rutherford County Schools' choice schools and has been a level 4 or 5 school for several years. Holloway High has been an integral part of helping Rutherford County schools maintain their excellent graduation rate. Holloway High has helped some of Rutherford County's most fragile and at-risk students graduate on time. And whereas Sumatra Branham Drayton continues to be a pillar in the Rutherford County community, and we acknowledge her dedication, and therefore be it resolved that in recognition of Black History Month 2024, the Rutherford County Mayor and Board of Commissioners express their great appreciation for the outstanding contributions made by Sumatra Branham Drayton to the citizens and youth of Rutherford County, Tennessee. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be entered permanently into the archive of the 2024 Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, signed this 15th day of February, 2024. Mrs. Drayton. I move to approve. I was so
Motion and a
excited.
second to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution carries. Thank you.
Let me get a picture. 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 I'm gonna take a picture.
Our second resolution for extraordinary service and leadership will be presented by Commissioner Romel McMurry.
All right, Mr. Lyles, come on up. And you and your family. In family, that's right. Y'all pray for me. This is a long one. Whew. He's got a lot on this one. All righty. This is the resolution honoring Mr. Bernard Greg Lyles for extraordinary service and leadership in Rutherford County, Tennessee. Whereas the celebration of Black History Month is a positive way of recognizing the culture and history of African Americans as vital to the core beliefs and values of our society. And whereas the contributions of African Americans have been vital to the growth and development of Rutherford County, Tennessee, and with this, the Rutherford County Mayor and Board of Commissioners would like to recognize Mr. Bernard Greg Lyles for his contributions to Rutherford County, Tennessee. And whereas Greg Lyles served the youth of Rutherford County with dedication and a commitment to excellence for 46 years as a teacher, assistant principal, and community initiatives coordinator. And whereas Greg Lyles' professional contributions include opening the first year-round school in Tennessee at Cason Lane Academy in 1994, representing Rutherford County at the National Conference in Year-Round Education, the National Conference of Differentiated Instruction, the National Math and Science Conference, the National Black Child Development Institute Conference, the Tennessee Educators Accelerated Model Training, the Tennessee LEAD Conference, obtaining Tennessee Career Level 3 Administrator Certification, developing Boys to Men Mentoring Program for elementary students, developing Club Marvel in partnership with Middle Tennessee State University, which is a leadership and career awareness program for inner city students, coordinating Murfreesboro City Schools program for homebound, homeschool, homeless, indigent care fund, backpack, and food pantry programs, and district partnerships with community agencies and organizations. And whereas Mr. Lyles currently serves on the Community Care of Rutherford County Board of Directors, the Prevention Coalition for Success Advisory Council, and the Volunteer Tennessee State Commission. He previously served on the St. Clair Senior Center Board of Directors, the Read to Succeed Advisory Council, the Bellwood Preschool Advisory Council, the Linebaugh Library Board of Directors, the Bradley Academy Museum Advisory Council, the American Red Cross Diversity Committee, the Murfreesboro Evening Exchange Club. And whereas Mr. Lyles has earned many awards and recognitions such as Leadership Rutherford Graduate, WGNS Radio Father of the Year, Murfreesboro Education Association Outstanding Educator Award, Distinguished Administrator Award, the Olive Branch Honor Our Builders Award, the Creative Occasions Community Service Award, the Murfreesboro Branch NAACP Man of the Year Award, the first African American in the history of Murfreesboro Faith Award, the Delta Sigma Theta Rutherford County Alumni Chapter Celebration of Champions Award, the Discovery Center Murfreesboro Discovery Guild Impact Award, and appointed by the Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam to the Volunteer Tennessee State Commission. And whereas Greg has been a pillar in the Rutherford County community for many decades in many facets, and therefore be it resolved that in recognition of Black History Month 2024, the Rutherford County Mayor and the Board of Commissioners express their great appreciation for the outstanding contributions made by Bernard Gregory Lyles to the citizens and youth of Rutherford County, Tennessee. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be entered permanently into the archives of the 2024 Rutherford County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a lot of seconds to approve. Thank you.
Mr. Gregory Lyles. All right, I have one last thing. So in honor of recognition of Black History Month, to all the commissioners, there are a few items that are on your desk that we wanted to spotlight local African Americans who own businesses. So the first thing you have right here on your desk is Franklin's Fruit Tea. They were gracious enough to provide us mango, peach, and traditional gold. So we hope you enjoy that as one of the local African American businesses here in town. And then secondly, I also have, you want to bring them out? Well, just show them. The Peach Cobbler Factory, they've given us all peach cobblers for tonight, a variety of different things for us to try. I didn't want to sit it on your desk because I don't want y'all falling asleep in the meeting. So, but I have 5 boxes of these, and he'll show you this. We have all kinds of stuff, all kinds of goodies for everybody. And then lastly, Commissioner Hope Oliver presented some cake pops from. I'm sorry, I don't have the card.
It's from Celestial Delights, owned by Celeste Davis.
Gotcha. So again, all 3 of these items are locally here in Rutherford County, Black-owned businesses. So we just wanted to spotlight that during Black History Month, and we thank everyone for participating in this endeavor tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Oliver, and thank you, Commissioner McMurry, for these resolutions in honor of 2 of the outstanding citizens of Rutherford County. Thank you. This time I'll call on our Chairman Pro-Tem for the reading and approval of last month's minutes. Trey Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have read the minutes and find them to be in order.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve our last month's January meeting minutes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item number I. This month we're getting to know our Health Department Director, Brian Cumbie, and I'll call on our Chairman Pro Tem, Trey Gooch, for the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, unless you serve on Health and Ed and Budget, you may not know or be aware of all the work that our Health Department does, particularly by our Director. And we're just so proud of him and everything that has been accomplished on his behalf and his staff's behalf. So Mr. Cumbie has been Director of the Rutherford County Health Department since August 2022. He grew up in southeastern Kentucky in a remote part of the Daniel Boone National Forest, where his father worked for the United States Forest Service. He first came to Rutherford County in 1995 to attend MTSU's music industry program. From there, he went to work out in Nashville and spent over 2 decades on the road as a production manager for Grammy award-winning artists like Steve Earle and Shenandoah. In 2018, he completed, I'm not saying he went through midlife crisis, but in 2018, he completed a degree in healthcare administration and was hired by Dana Garrett as an operations supervisor at the health department. And he's a certified men's health educator. He has traveled to 49 of 50 states, enjoys hiking and history, and his pride and joy is his daughter, Willow, who is currently a senior at MTSU, and his favorite commissioner is Trey Gooch. So what's the final state that you need to go to?
What would
Chairman Pro Tem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It does sound like I made a rather drastic career move, but I've come to learn that I really just went from working with one pool of talented individuals to another. So I appreciate your hospitality to me for that. And I'm very grateful for this invitation to share with you about our health department. I think it's an excellent idea for this commission to hear from each department and get to learn more about what they do. And I do hope by the end of my short presentation you get a sense of the work we do, but also of the respect and admiration that I have for those who work with us inside and outside of our building. Next slide, please. So public health first came to Rutherford County 100 years ago in 1923. The Commonwealth Fund out of New York, which was the charitable arm of the Rockefeller Corporation, sought to bring a child health demonstration to a rural county in the South and then measure the results. A team of 6 nurses, 1 social worker, a statistician, and a medical doctor were recruited locally to run a program that would teach the benefits of good hygiene, good nutrition, and physical well-being to the children of Rutherford County. And there's a fascinating, detailed history written by a professor from MTSU, and I'd be glad to share a copy of that with anyone who would like it. But just to give you an idea of the situation 100 years ago, it was just after the Spanish flu pandemic. High rates of typhoid fever, tuberculosis, smallpox, diphtheria, and scarlet fever plagued this community. On the initial health appraisal for this project, Rutherford only scored 110 points out of a possible 1,000. We have 50 modern, amazing schools in the county today. In 1923, there were more than 100 little country schools out in the county. When the child health demonstration began, only 5 of those schools had sanitary toilets, 15 had safe water, and none of them had individual drinking cups for the children. So as you would imagine, after recess, they all drank from the same dipper. Next slide, please. One of the 6 public health nurses hired to work the project was Miss Mary Ellen Vaughn. That's her there on her carriage. In observance of Black History Month, I'd like to speak of her for just a moment. She was an impressive person in many respects. But in addition to being a nurse, she published a newspaper that served the African American community in Rutherford County. She was also an educator who had attended the Tuskegee Institute that was established by Booker T. Washington. Vaughn Street in Murfreesboro is named in her honor, and there stands a historical marker there today that talks about her life and work. She is largely credited for getting Rutherford County across the finish line of this 5-year child health demonstration. When the initial enthusiasm began to wane in the latter days of the program, the schools and families that she served really brought it home. And so when given that same public health appraisal 5 years later, Rutherford County scored 814 points, and that was a net 700-point gain. So the successful conclusion of that demonstration led to the Commonwealth Fund building the original Rutherford County Hospital in 1927, and then the Health Department in 1931. In doing so, established the nation's first complete delivery system of rural health care, with both the Health Department and a hospital in a rural county. Next slide, please. Today, the Rutherford County Health Department is governed by the Board of Health, whose membership is comprised of medical practitioners in our community, the county mayor, the director of schools, the director of the health department, and other stakeholders. We work to implement the policy and best practices of the Tennessee Department of Health in a way that meets the needs of the community. Next slide. The Tennessee Department of Health was also founded in 1923, and its mission is to protect, promote, and improve the health and well-being of all people in Tennessee. Its vision is for healthy people, healthy communities, and then a healthy Tennessee. And values are trust, compassion, service, and excellence. And those values are found in the people who work at our health department today. Trust is earned by being reliable when needed. You see compassion every day in our offices. A heart for service is really a prerequisite for working in our health department, and excellence is reflected in our work. One example, in the past review cycle, we got a perfect quality improvement score from the state inspectors in each of our clinics in Smyrna and Murfreesboro, and our dental department got the only perfect dental score in our region. Next slide, please. To take a look at some of our programs and services, we issue vital records, birth certificates, death certificates for anyone born or passing in Tennessee, immunization records. A good percentage of those 1,000+ students that we add to the schools here every year, they come through our doors to get shots or shot records. Voluntary acknowledgement of paternity is a process for adding a biological father to the birth certificate if that wasn't done at birth. Disease prevention and control, that kind of goes without saying for us, but we have a pair of disease intervention specialists who have been with us, and Not to reveal ages or anything, but they have over 50 years of experience between them. Our health education does community outreach, health promotion, health fairs, big events like our community baby shower that's coming up in June. Environmental health, this is a team that inspect every restaurant, food truck, hotel, swimming pool, tattoo artist in the county. And you can imagine with all the restaurants in our county, what a monumental task that is. CHANT stands for Community Health Access Navigators in Tennessee. These are our social workers, and they work with families who have children with severe medical problems, and they support the whole family and help with the great things like occupational, solutions and things like that. So it goes beyond just helping the child. Next slide, please. WIC is something you're probably familiar with. It's Women, Infants, and Children. It's a federal program that provides supplemental nutrition to pregnant women and children under the age of 5. And over half of the children born in the United States today qualify for the WIC program. WIC benefits are very targeted. They're healthy nutrition, formula, fruits, vegetables, and grains. One of my favorite things in the summer, there are farmers market vouchers issued where families can go get fresh fruits and vegetables at our local farmers markets. That supports our local economy, but also our agriculture here. Some of the highest performing registered dietitians and nutritionists in the state work out of our offices. Emergency preparedness, we develop and implement plans to respond to public health emergencies such as natural disasters, disease outbreaks, or bioterrorism. We collaborate with County EMA Director Chris Clark and other agencies to assure coordinated response during these emergencies. And all our staff routinely train, prepare, and maintain plans in readiness. FEMA training is part of our onboarding, and we do pod exercises every year. Next slide, please. Our clinical services are the heart of what we do, and my goal has always been to give our patients the same level of care and a similar experience that they would get in the private sector. Primary care services for men, women, and children. We do focus on the uninsured, but we also accept insurance. If the person is uninsured, we bill on a sliding fee scale based on their means or their income. We do well visits, sick visits, preventive care or chronic disease management like blood pressure or diabetes, STI testing, treatment, family planning, pregnancy testing, and then if there's a positive pregnancy result, we can help that young lady apply for TennCare while she's still in our office. So that same day, she leaves with a plan for how her child is going to be taken care of. She can start making appointments immediately, and then she probably has some information about the WIC program as well. We do dental services for the uninsured, preventive care for adults and children, fillings, extractions, cleanings, and those charges are based on a sliding fee scale, so they're affordable as well. Next slide, please. A huge part of our role as a local health department in our community is working with community partners. We could not do it alone. So other organizations in our community that serve the same population, one way we work with them is we host our Community Wellness Council, which meets on the first Tuesday of every month in our building. It's comprised of medical clinics, healthcare organizations, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, community leaders, citizens, really anyone with a vested interest in improving the health of the community. Our council works closely with Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford and Vanderbilt University Medical Center during the data gathering phase of what's called a community health assessment, where we assess the needs of the community. Then we review that data, we set priorities, and implement the Community Health Improvement Plan. And we renew that cycle every 3 years. Both of these documents are available to the public on our website. We identified 5 priority areas currently: healthcare access, attainable housing, mental health, infant mortality, and opioid misuse. We form work groups for each priority, and it truly is a collaborative effort. And speaking of healthcare access, this is a priority not only of our Wellness Council, but of our Tennessee Commissioner of Health, and that support has allowed us to make some innovations to our service, like using telehealth to meet the patients where they are. We were a pilot program for it in our region, and we now use telehealth with medical appointments, with WIC appointments, and with diabetes maintenance. Next slide, please. This slide will be of particular interest to our commission and citizens. It's a look at how health departments are funded by a mix of federal, state, and county dollars. And this is the formula for all county health departments in Tennessee. It's 33% state funding, 33% federal funding, 2% county funding, and then 32% revenues. And a lot of people are surprised to find out that we generate revenue because the perception is that health departments are free clinics. And indeed, some services are free. But if a patient has insurance, we will bill that insurance. If they don't, we adjust that charge based on their declared income. We don't engage in medical collections that would affect someone's credit. And we would never deny someone care based on a balance owed. Final slide. The Rutherford County Health Department serves as a cornerstone in safeguarding the well-being of this community by addressing health threats, promoting healthy behaviors, providing health services, vital records, and advocating for policies that support public health initiatives. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate you, son. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Cumbie. At this time, we're scheduled for our public hearings. I'll call on our Planning Director, Doug Demosi. While Doug is coming up, if you'll look to my left, you'll see that Commissioner James has made it tonight. He probably caught a special flight in from Florida to make it here tonight, but we're glad you're here, Joshua.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. We have 5 public hearings for your consideration tonight. The first is property located along Highway 99. This is existing zoning of residential medium density. They are looking for a proposed zoning of office professional. This property is about 24 acres in size. The Planning Commission actually deferred this item at their November 2023 meeting due to concerns expressed by the commissioners and public during the hearing. Most of those items I'm going to go over just briefly, and they start on the 3rd page of your staff report. The first had to do with the proposed use of the property, especially if the intended use of mini warehouses, which we'll talk about, was not actually what was constructed on the property. So the original application was actually, they were asking for commercial services zoning. So self-storage mini warehouses are allowed, but they're only allowed by special exception in that zone. So even if the rezoning request is approved, the Board of Zoning Appeals will still have to be involved and grant a special exception to that particular use. However, there's also a wide range of uses allowed in the commercial services zone, such as various retail uses, motor vehicle repair establishments, et cetera. So the Planning Commission asked the applicant to possibly consider a different zone, either maybe a planned development approach, or staff even suggested possibly the office professional zone, which would also allow mini warehouses by special exception, but doesn't have a lot of the same retail uses that are allowed in the commercial services. So we met with the applicant and discussed that. And after discussing it, the applicant did decide to ask for office professional zoning as opposed to commercial services. And this is similar to zoning that's located across and slightly to the west along Highway 99. There's a small medical clinic there. There was some misunderstanding also about how much of the subject property the applicant wanted. Originally, they were only asking for a portion. As it turns out, he was interested in having the whole thing rezoned, so we went ahead and corrected that as well. There were a lot of concerns brought up about there's an existing access easement to properties, I guess you would say to the south of the subject property. Several of those larger tracts back there have access to their properties through the subject property that we're talking about today. The applicant did consult with an attorney. There is a memo from him in your agenda packets for you to look at. Of course, the applicant is not proposing to take away this access. He's actually incorporating it into his design. There was some discussion maybe of relocating the access easement on the subject property. However, it felt like it might be a little too problematic for the applicant to try to do that, as they would have to get agreement from all the folks that have access to that. So by incorporating it into his design, that was how he plans to address that. Some of the folks that spoke during the hearing were also concerned about stormwater runoff from the subject property and how it might affect their property. As the County Commission is aware, as well as the Planning Commission, when we discussed it with them, we do take stormwater issues very seriously. This project, should it be approved, again, of course, that only approves the zoning. It would still have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals if they decided to entertain the use of a mini warehouse. But even if that happens, they still are required to do a engineered site plan that would have to come back through the Planning Commission for their review. And our engineering staff is very cognizant of the effect that additional stormwater may have on additional properties. So that's something that we will look at. There was also some concerns about the topography of the site and the amount of cut that may be required to accommodate really this use or any use for that matter. The applicant did state they would like to work with the topography, recognizing that there would be some amount of material that would have to be excavated, but of course that's something that we can help police and look at as we are reviewing site plans. So all that to say, there is a revised concept plan that's been submitted. It is in your agenda packets for your review. Access to the property would be along Highway 99. They would construct a new access point, which would have to meet all state guidelines, as Highway 99 is a state road. Of course, no traffic study's been done at this point. However, that is something that we as staff could do at the site plan phase. Landscaping and screening, there is a type 1 buffer required between office professional zone property and also residentially zoned property. You'll see on the concept plan he's only looking to develop a portion of the property, so a lot of the existing plant material on the property he can incorporate to his design. Also, the Board of Zoning Appeals, if they felt it necessary, could also require them to place some reasonable conditions on their approval for a special exception, which could include additional buffering as well. And our performance standards would also apply to this. I won't go over a lot of the questions of the Planning Commission. It really goes back to all the issues that I discussed just a little earlier. But if you have specific questions, obviously I'm more than welcome and more than happy to answer those. After discussion, the Planning Commission did make a recommendation to approve this rezoning by a vote of 9-4, 0 against, and 1 abstention. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Demosi? This time I'll declare the public hearing open for rezoning request REZ 23-023 Christopher Threet. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. Being no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I wish to move for its approval with staff comments.
We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning request REZ 23-023. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Mr. Demosi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our second request is property located along Franklin Road, 6376 Franklin Road. Again, existing zoning is residential medium density. Proposed zoning is institutional for about 15 acres. The applicant proposes to rezone this property to build a new permanent church location. Development plans include the construction of a approximately 22,500 square foot building, which would include a church sanctuary to seat approximately 325 people, a nursery with room for up to 12 children and workers, 10 Sunday school classrooms, restrooms, lobby, non-commercial kitchen, etc. Additional improvements to the property would also include a landscape sign at the property entrance, paved driveway, and parking for up to about 350 people, pavilion for outdoor events, softball, and a soccer field for recreational uses. The institutional zone was created for these type uses, schools, larger community assembly uses, which religious uses would fall into. The range of allowed uses is limited compared to either the office professional zone, which we just considered in our last application, or any of the commercial zones. The reason we recommended they go with a rezoning is discussions with the applicant indicate that while they may not be at the threshold right now for 500, which would make them a large community assembly, which would require the rezoning, they do plan to grow on the property over time. So rather than go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a medium community assembly and then have to rezone in the future, it just made more sense to do one application and take care of it all at one time. So that's when we recommended the institutional zone. Discussions with the applicant indicate that access will be along Franklin Road. Of course, there is a stub street in the Royal Glen subdivision off of Embassy Drive. No access is proposed for that. The applicant is proposing a paved driveway to about a 100-foot by 225-foot, parking lot that could provide parking. Should this application be approved, of course, compliance with all of our access and parking requirements would have to be shown on an engineered site plan, which again would have to go back through the Planning Commission. Properties zoned institutional are also required to install type 1 buffer adjacent to any residentially zoned properties. And existing plantings, again, as we discussed in the last application, can be counted to meet those requirements, and our performance standards would also apply. The Planning Commission did question whether the zoning would allow for continued expansion of the church facility. We did answer that it would allow for that, of course, contingent upon receiving site plan approval by the Planning Commission. They also questioned what would happen with the existing structures. The applicant did indicate that they would keep the existing structures on the property. And there was also some questions about current membership. Staff did receive a few phone calls and emails about this. The conversations that I had, they weren't opposed to the use. They just had concerns about the drainage of the property, how it may affect some of the folks in Royal Glen, and various other questions. Of course, a lot of those issues, as we discussed in the last application, are things that we would look at the site plan phase, but things that we take very seriously. So they sent us some pictures of some of the things that they deal with. So we're going to make sure that if this does eventually move to a site plan approval, that we will take those pictures and all that input into account as we look at the site plan. So with that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval, and that was by a unanimous vote. So again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Demosi? This time I'll declare the public hearing open for rezoning request item REZ 24-001 for Cumberland Hills Baptist Church. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. Sonia fooled me there a little bit. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Romel McMurry.
Mr. Chairman, myself and the Lord moves to approve this motion.
Staff comments. Move to approve with staff.
With approval of staff comments.
Thank you, Mr.
Second
McMurray.
with me and Jesus.
We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning request REZ 24-001. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Mr. Demosi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our third application is by and for the Rutherford County Schools. This is located at 5104 Baker Road. The existing zoning is agricultural residential and medium-density residential. Proposed zoning is also institutional for about 61 acres. Rutherford County purchased this subject property in June of 2023 for use as an elementary school and potential future school site. Community education facilities such as this are not allowed in residential zones, but are allowed in the institutional zone. Again, as we discussed in the last application, we created the institutional zone specifically for these type of uses. Concept plan was submitted with the application. You can find a copy in your agenda packets. The concept plan does show access to both Blackman Road and Baker Road. The front of the proposed elementary school faces Baker Road, so most of the queuing lanes and everything will be in that area. Turn lane improvements are also being shown along Baker Road onto the school property, as well as Blackman Road, where there will be an access drive to line up with Russell Drive, which is in a county subdivision directly across the street. There's also a potential future connection to Rushmore Drive on the north side of the property. I'll talk about that more in here in just a moment. So should this application be approved, of course, compliance with our access and parking requirements would have to be demonstrated on a site plan. As far as landscaping, we went over that as well with institutional zones. They are required to install type 1 buffers. Existing plantings can be used to satisfy that. Our performance standards would also have to be met. The Planning Commission did have some questions about room for possible ball fields for the future middle school. They are showing room for practice fields, but they will not be lighted. There was some discussion about that at the Planning Commission. Comments received during the public hearing concerned traffic improvements and drainage concerns as well. There was some concern about opening that back access to Rushmore Drive. It was felt that the existing access drives would be sufficient. There was quite a bit of discussion amongst the Planning Commission on that item. Of course, that's for a future school. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but the consensus at that time was pretty much leave Rushmore Drive alone. So again, that would really be a future issue, but we've heard those concerns from the folks who spoke loud and clear. And the drainage, I know that's something that our engineering staff has looked very closely on. We've worked with the school's assistant superintendent for engineering, Trey on that, our concerns, and also their engineering consultant that they have working on this project, so I know our concerns are being heard and being addressed. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. And again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Demosi? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing open. Rezoning request REZ 24-002. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner James.
As presented, with staff comments, I move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning request REZ 24-002. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Commissioner Demosi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Our fourth of five request is for property located at 2048 Butler Drive. This is currently zoned residential medium density. They are looking for a zoning of Employment and Activity Center, EAC, for approximately 17 acres of property. Development plans for this property include the construction of a building, approximately 22,500 square feet in size, which you'll find there's a concept plan with your agenda packets. You can kind of see what it is they're proposing. They are proposing this to be used for the sales, leasing, heavy repair, and short-term storage of private heavy commercial trucks, equipment, and travel trailers. This is not to be meant to be open to the public, and it's not going to be a truck stop, according to information provided by the applicant. There are no public restrooms, showers, or any of those services or amenities except what's going to be required by the county's adopted building codes. Facilities will have entrance onto the existing Butler Drive, but with rear access along the soon-to-be realigned Butler Drive. Again, you can see a concept plan of that in your agenda packets as well. Any outdoor storage or parking would be located at the rear of the building, closer to the realigned Butler Drive. Now, again, since this is not a plan development, this is not a binding concept plan, but it does give you an idea of what they are looking for. During our pre-application meeting, we did meet with the representative about applying for the EAC zoning. It's typically reserved for those areas identified as such in our comprehensive plan. This is not one of those areas that we identified. However, it shares many of the same characteristics as our EAC identified areas. It's right off an interchange, very close proximity to that interchange, lots of different industrial and commercial type development around it. So there's nothing in our ordinance that prohibits its application, and we looked at something similar on the other side of I-24 on Elam Road just a few months ago. Again, the concept plan does show access to Butler Drive, along with a parking lot, showing the parking for the trailers and also regular parking spaces. Again, engineered site plan would be required. Buffering in the EAC zone is determined by the type of use. If it's more of an industrial use, they'll have to look at type 3 buffering. Incidentally, we just received an application today that, assuming it goes through the process, you'll see in just a couple months for property adjacent. I believe it was to the south of this. So again, these plans you're seeing are conceptual right now, and we'll just kind of wait to see how things turn out with that. The Planning Commission had some questions about the amount of paving on the property, echoing some of staff's concerns. Again, it was reiterated this is a conceptual plan. It's not meant to be a final development plan. They also said that they would reevaluate their design based on the Butler Drive realignment. That's a city-driven project, City of Murfreesboro. So that is something that obviously when a site plan comes through, we'll take a look at, make sure Murfreesboro is aware of what's going on. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Demosi? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing open for rezoning request. I'm sorry.
Please, that's okay.
Commissioner Oliver.
Can you talk to me about the residential plans related to this?
As far as this subject property or around it?
Is this, it says residential units.
I'm sorry, where, Ms. Oliver, where are you looking?
I'm under comprehensive plans, so are they not planning on residential units as a part of this?
No, this is all going to be for probably commercial/industrial type use.
Okay, I'm reading this, so I guess I'm reading it
I'll
wrong.
come see what you're looking.
Gotcha, thank you.
Previous. Good, Commissioner Oliver? Okay. Any other questions? None. I'll declare the public hearing open for rezoning request REZ 24-003 for Persica Capital. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Allen McAdoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that this be rezoned with staff comments. And basically, in this area, Murfreesboro Planning Commission is working closely with the Rutherford County Planning Commission because it's right there all together. And it was 5 residential homes in that area, and I think we just about cleared all that out in Butler Drive area because all of it's commercial. Now, this particular project here is for the trucks, basically, that are in that area, trailer trucks and stuff for repair. So, like you said, it's another one coming up the next couple of months that will be similar to this, and it's all located around that Murfreesboro transfer station area. So, I'll definitely make the motion that this be approved.
We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning request REZ 24-003. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Mr. Demosi.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have a rezoning request located at 7505 Shelbyville Pike. Existing zoning is residential low density and proposed zoning is heavy industrial for approximately 5 acres. Property will contain a maintenance facility for vehicles associated with a ready-mix concrete business. This use is categorized as a heavy industrial use in our zoning ordinance, so it's only allowed by right in this zone. There is a concept plan that you'll find attached with your agenda packets on your iPads. Again, as we've discussed, this is not a binding plan, but does give you an idea of how they are wanting to move forward with developing the property. So you can see the maintenance building, about 4,800 square feet, 800 square foot batch office, other mechanical appurtenances used in the process, storage bins, and things like that. The applicant is proposing an entrance onto Shelbyville Pike to a parking lot that will provide about 30 parking spaces around the shop building and batch office. There's a median cut where the existing access drive is located, which obviously we like to see. So they plan on keeping their access where that cut is located. So should this application be approved, of course, we would have to see a site plan, and that site plan would have to show compliance with all of our regulations as well as the state, because 231 Shelbyville Pike is a federal/state road, so that'll be required to meet TDOT standards. Properties zoned heavy industrial are required to also have a type 3 buffer adjacent to any residentially zoned property. Based on the zoning of the surrounding property, they would have to do a type 3 buffer only on the southern side of the property, as there's existing zoning, industrial zoning around. Existing plantings, again, can be used to satisfy that. Again, adherence to that would be confirmed with an engineered site plan, and our performance standards would also be required to be met. During the public hearing, there were some concerns raised about traffic, noise, and blasting on the property. There were some also concerns about similar use being about a mile down the road. The Planning Commission asked about turn lanes. The applicant's representative stated that turn lanes would be added for this project, specifically I guess that'd be a southbound left turn lane onto the property, and then an acceleration lane coming out of the property as well. Following discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval. It was almost unanimous, 9-4. Nobody was against, but we did have one abstention. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Demosi?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner James.
how common is it to go from low-density residential directly bordering to high industrial before it gets to low industrial?
We don't see very many application requests for heavy industrial. The reason they're going for this particular use is just, or zone B, is because of the use. Now, there is other light industrial in that area surrounding the property, but as far as seeing one from residential to the heavy industrial, we don't see many applications like this.
Other questions? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing open for rezoning request REZ 24-004. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. State your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My address is 7685 Shovelville Pike. I am .02 miles from this property that's wanting to be rezoned to heavy. I purchased this property back in the late 90s from my grandparents because I wanted to live in the country and not in the city and in an industrial area. There is light industrial property next to me. In fact, last year the property on one side of me did rezone some of his to light industrial, and I'm okay with that because that is contained and there's not as many pollutants and water contaminants and noise factors like that that come with heavy industrial. I feel like it is, you know, it might be a win for the buyer, it might be a win for the seller, but I don't think it's a win for our community as a whole. Generally, I think people that choose to purchase property out in the rural areas of the county want to be out in the rural county, away from that noise and that air pollution, possibility for other contaminants going into the water. My property is zoned agricultural, so I'm concerned about the dust and speaking with some of the neighbors. Property that is closer to that other concrete facility that's just right down the road from me. Speaking to them between the last meeting and this meeting, you know, they told me the problems with the dust and they actually think it has caused some health problems for them. My daughter has asthma. She lives on the property with me. So essentially I'm going to be stuck between two dusty, heavy industrial areas. I just don't feel like that's a good fit for Rutherford County at this time. I know this county is growing and eventually we may have heavy industrial all over the county, but I feel like light industrial would be fine in that area. Like I said, I didn't complain when the other property adjacent to me went light industrial because it's contained and it doesn't bring about these other problems that heavy industrial does. But I would appreciate it if you guys would just think about my concerns, kind of put yourself in my shoes if you can. If you had purchased property in a rural area, would you want heavy industrial 0.02 miles from your house, and vote that way. I appreciate your time and thoughts on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request? Seeing no one else, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've spoke with Ms. Wilson, and I've also spoke with the developer on this. Being on a major highway with a median access, and they're willing to put in turn lanes, it alleviated the safety concerns I have of those trucks entering and exiting the highway. Regarding our comprehensive plan, that's where we see 231 being utilized, so I would make a motion for approval with staff comments.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning request REZ 24-004. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? We have one no. Let the record show. Commissioner James. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Demosi. Go back to our agenda. Item J, I believe it is, public comments. We've had one individual to sign up for public comments, Matt Fee. If Matt is here, would you please come forward? And I think Matt will be speaking on our impact fee study that's proposed. Been here before, you know the rules. You got 3 minutes.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Fee. I live on Winding Branch Drive in Christiana. I am here tonight as the Vice President of Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance, and tonight I will be delivering public comments prepared by our President, Susan Allen. She regrets not being able to be here tonight as she just had hip replacement surgery last week, but felt that it was very important to address the subject of funding an impact fee study that is on the agenda tonight. We all wish Sue a speedy recovery. 20 years ago, the Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance met weekly and spent many months studying impact fees. We became very familiar with Tischler-Bice methodology and personally spoke several times with Paul Tischler, hoping to get him to make a presentation to the commission. In 2005, we were part of the County Alternative Revenue Task Force and also presented testimony before TASER regarding growth tax legislation being considered by the state legislature at the time. As a nonpartisan, grassroots citizen organization, we were convinced by our research that an impact fee was absolutely necessary to relieve some of the burden of growth from the property taxpayer. Nothing has changed our opinion on that. There are so many reasons to vote for this funding, and very few not to. Our legislative delegation, several who may be concerned about their campaign donors, wants guardrails and more data. This study would provide that to them and to all the stakeholders who would be affected. Stakeholders aren't just the builders and realtors concerned about their bottom line being affected and have been the ones voicing the most objections. No. Those industries make up only a very small segment of the stakeholders. The largest are the tens of thousands of property taxpayers who live in existing single and multifamily homes, as well as apartments. Keep in mind that an impact fee or development tax affect only new development. In my opinion, answers to questions such as an impact fee would affect property taxes and a relationship between impact fees and spending efficiency and whether the schools are building efficient, cost-effective, prudent schools as opposed to functional buildings, or timing in relation to what comes out of the state legislature are not germane to the issue at hand. Information from this study is what you need to make future decisions. Sue will be watching at home, and she hopes for a unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fee. Elections and confirmations. We'll call on steering vice chair, Commissioner Pettis-Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Elections and confirmations. Item 1, election of notaries. Listing of notaries may be found on your iPad, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, I move to confirm the election of these individuals as Rutherford County notaries.
Any questions? We have a motion and a second to approve the list of notaries. All those in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm on the list, so I will abstain. Everyone else can vote yes. On page 2.
That has created several objections, it appears. We have a motion and a second to approve the list of notaries with one commissioner abstaining. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 2, steering would like to confirm Amanda Stiles Mathis as the Juvenile Commissioner, Judicial Commissioner for the county with a term not to exceed 4 years. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion and a second to approve Ms. Mathis as Judicial Commissioner. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you.
Item 3, we wish to announce 3 County Board of Equalization vacancies, which are 2-year terms beginning April 2024 and continuing until April 2026. Item 4, steering wishes to announce a County Board of Equalization alternate vacancy. This will be a 2-year term, also beginning April 2024 and continuing until April 2026. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the business for elections and confirmations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Item L, we've got a list of consent agenda items. I'll call on our Chairman Pro-Tem, Trey Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have reviewed the consent agenda and find everything to be appropriate.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'm not sure our board is working. Is it still not working? I guess we're going to. Sorry?
I don't know if their buttons will work. If you'd like to give it a test drive, so we might know.
Let's give it a shot. All those in favor, please cast your vote. Okay.
Roll call.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it worked.
Working?
I'm having a great time. I am. Is that correct? Can you read the count?
Is it right? Okay, so yes, it's 20 yes, 1 abstain.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is approved. Thank you. No unfinished business. Item O, a report from our standing committees, Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee, Chairman Robert P.
You only get 3 minutes. First item is a resolution from our county clerk. And basically what this is asking for money to continue doing a hotel motel tax audit. We basically have been auditing the hotels around. We need money to continue that. I think we've already found some of them were in arrears up to $75,000. So this money that we're allocating would pretty well be covered, at least by that. We do have a second with the general sessions, and I'll get to that. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general fund be amended as follows: from the county clerk's office, a decrease in unassigned fund balance of $25,000 and an increase in expenditures for other contracted service of $25,000. Now, the second part is related to our general sessions judges. Last year, during our budget season, we were given a percentage raise increase, which is mandated by the state, and I think it was around 4%. At any rate, they've recently declared that that should have been another percent higher, so they're making us pay retroactively back to the last year, and that's what this motion will do. A decrease in unassigned fund balance of $8,867, an increase in expenditures for judges of $7,373, Social Security $457, pensions $819, disability $111, and employee Medicare $107. Resolved this 15th day of February 2024, Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion and a second to approve item O1A. Questions or comments? Be on the board, please cast your vote. We may not be on the board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. I'm really having fun now.
So the board reflects 21 yes.
The vote has been recorded and the motion passes. Thank you.
Budget item B, and this is actually related to what the public comment speaker had to say.
Whereas Rutherford County has encouraged the state legislative delegation to introduce legislation to change the County Powers Relief Act to allow the county to implement school impact fees, so the growth of the county will pay for itself. And whereas Rutherford County desires to hire Tischler Biss to perform a school impact fee study to provide the state legislative delegation with growth and cost recovery information. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are here authorized to execute a contract with Tischler Biss in accordance with the school impact fee study proposal. A copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim to provide a school impact fee report with detailed methodologies and proposed fees by land use type, and be it further resolved that the general fund be amended as follows to fund the school impact fee study. A decrease in unassigned fund balance of $56,000, a decreased expenditure of other salaries and wages of $4,000, and an increased expenditure under other contracted services for $60,000. Resolved this 15th day of February 2024. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
We have a motion and a second to approve item O1B. Questions or discussion? Commissioner Cush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chairman, did they give you, should this pass, did they give you any indication about how long this study would take?
You know, we had that discussion in budget, and I don't recall exactly. Michael, do you?
I believe they said approximately 4 to 6 months, but I believe the mayor's chief of staff is also in the back to see if my recollection is the same as his. But I was thinking 6 months sticks out of my mind from what I was heard. Yes.
6 months is correct.
Just for general information is if this legislative request is passed, we would have to turn around and do this study. So this is basically taking care of the what if, and it's also asking questions that the delegation has had in the past.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none for this, we'll be on the board, hopefully. Please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to change your vote, let me start all over. Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
19 yes, 2 no.
Item O1B passes.
Budget item C. This is actually a resolution for funding an elementary school. It'll explain itself as it goes. Whereas there is a need to plan, design, construct, and furnish an elementary school on the Beatty property project due to growth in the area. And whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education has anticipated the future needs of the school system, and whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education desires to proceed with funding of the design, site development, construction, improvements, and equipping of the project at the estimated cost, and I'm going to give you the total, it's $59,857,000. Whereas the funds in the amount of $4,540,600 were approved in May of 2023 and again in January 2024 for design, site development, and contingency for the project, and funds in the amount of $25,316,400 will be funded from a future bond issue for the project. $30 million will be transferred from the general purpose school fund unassigned fund balance for the project. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the funding for the site for the design, site development, construction, improvements, equipment of the project, and an estimated amount of $59,857,000 be authorized with funds of $4,540,600 being approved in May 2023 and January 2024 for design, site development, and contingency, and funds in the amount of $25,316,400 coming from a future bond issue, and $30 million being transferred from the general purpose school fund unassigned fund balance with the following budget amendment: a decrease in unassigned fund balance of $30 million and an increased expenditures transferred to other funds of $30 million. Resolved this 15th day of February 2024. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion and a second to approve item O1C. Questions, comments?
I make a request, please.
You can.
Something I want to mention, and even before, I want Michael to do an explanation on how we have looked in budget at funding this. And the reason being is we have an opportunity to save some money by doing this. And one thing most of you are probably aware, because you've had a hand in that, over the past 15 years, I think it's right at $26 million that the county has been able to save on our debt by restructuring our debt. Basically, it's like you refinancing your home for a better interest rate, but it's different from that. But anyway, I wanted to call on Michael to explain the options that he's got and why we're doing that at this time. Michael.
So what you see before you tonight, $25,316,400 would be funded from a future bond issue. So I want to point out a couple of things and then give this commission a couple of options. The first thing is that amount is the amount the school is requesting. Since this is an elementary school, we will have to share a portion of this, so we will be borrowing a little over $29 million to take account for the share. And then if you recall, during budget time, we talked about going to the bond market next fall. And up until recently, that was still our primary plan. However, with the fluctuation in interest rates, we do have a bond that is within the 90 days of its call option from 2014. It had a 10-year call option. We have the opportunity to do a refunding on that bond issue, and right now we're calculating that we could save anywhere from $800,000 to a little over $1 million on that, depending on interest rates as they go up or down. And so we're looking at potentially borrowing this spring instead of the fall. If we do that, we will probably tack on this issuance of new money to that refunding or refinancing at the same time to try to save on issuance costs. That would be option one. Option two is if interest rates were not to be advantageous for us to save money, we would pivot back to borrowing in the fall again, and then we would also re-look at the amount of money coming out of the fund balance for the schools. The school board and director of schools and us have talked. They have requested that we look at that as well, so it could be that we would take more out at that time if we were to borrow in the fall. But I think option one right now would be to take advantage of that refunding this spring. And so if interest rates stay where we think or where we hope they will, or go down, you would see a bond resolutions coming potentially next month in March or in April for the borrowing and refunding all at the same time.
Questions or comments?
Just for clarity, the reason the wording says future bond is to cover either spring or fall, depending on what's going on with interest rates. Is that correct?
The reason it says future bond issuance is if you pass this tonight, the schools will go ahead and be able to sign a contract. I believe it was R.G. Anderson that won the low bid. I'm looking at the school's finance director. So this will turn them loose to start construction, and they have enough cash flow already. If you remember when we did the high school additions, we didn't borrow until this past October, but we did a bond anticipation note. There is enough cash right now in that fund to float this construction project until we either go in the fall or the spring. But the future bond issuance does give this commission flexibility. whether that be in 2 months or whether it be in the fall. That language would still need to be there with either option.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, I'm sorry. Commissioner James.
I'm curious for clarification on it as well, because their total request is, in rough numbers, 60 million, and we're taking out of unassigned fund balance, or proposed to 30 million. Are we still going to go down and try to go to the bond market for the full 60? Or are we going to stop only at the half that we are left with?
All of this resolution, this resolution would authorize me to use $25,316,400 out of a future bond issuance. The 30 million would come out of their fund balance, and then the approximate, a little over 4.5 we already had that funding approved back in May and January. So this would only authorize me to go for that 25 million plus the share cost that we have to share with the Rutherford City Schools. So it'd be we would only go to the market for about a little over 29 million.
Other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Irving.
Michael, could you clarify just exactly how option A and option B work their way through this particular resolution? In other words, the next steps. I just want to make sure everybody's clear in terms of how this works. I understand option A, option B. How does that relate to this resolution? And just kind of carry it forward, if you would.
If this resolution is passed tonight, it will turn the schools loose. They will sign the contracts within, I would assume, the next day to 2 or 3 days, so they can get started on construction. And then it would be up to, you are approving funding for this entire project in its entirety tonight. And then the next step, if we did option A, is I would either bring back bond resolutions next month or in April, depending on how fast we can get them written and depending on interest rates. If interest rates were to go creep up, where that refunding was not advantageous for the county, then we would pivot to option B, and we would do nothing for the next few months until the fall. If for some reason they needed additional cash flow for this project between now and when we went to the bond market, we would issue a bond anticipation note, just as we did last year with the high schools. A bond anticipation note, I believe, can be up to 2 years, which we would not need that much, but we can do some interim funding if we needed to. But this resolution would turn them loose on that project. This would be agreeing to fund that project. And then next month, the plan is right now, next month would be to bring bond resolutions for this body. But we're closely watching interest rates. I spent about an hour on the phone with our municipal advisor or bond advisor today. And so we're closely watching that. We would do the advance refunding, would not bring that out to 20 years. The refunding would be for 10 years. We'd essentially be swapping interest rates. That interest rate currently right now is about 3.5, and we think we could get about a 2.5 interest rate on the refunding for the bond back from 2014.
And just to clarify, the amount of the issuance would be the $29 million plus the amount of the refunding on the 10-year?
We have not decided whether we would do a Series A and B, whether we would structure them together or separately. It would be whichever option would be advantageous for the county, and we would reserve the right, or I would make sure we did, to where if on the, if we got through this process, even if we were to take bond resolutions next month, and for something interest rates were to spike due to an unforeseen political event or something in the economy, then we would pull that bid back and pivot to option B. If we had to.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Robert.
Undergoing option A and option B, can you give me rough numbers, what we'd save versus what it would cost us if we go with one or not go with one?
The only reason for going on option A is so that we can take advantage of the refunding of about $18 million from 2014 that was issued. This county generally does 20-year issuances with 10-year call options. And so with coming up on 2024, that call option, as long as you're within 90 days, you can do that. You can exercise that call option. So we would hope, this is all variable based on interest rates, we would hope to save somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000 to a little over $1 million, depending on where that interest rates fell. And then we would hope to save maybe anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 on issuance costs to tack on this issuance to that. But if interest rates were to creep up to make it where we would not save on that refunding, then we would pivot. We just wouldn't do the refunding at all, and we would do this issuance potentially in the fall. And the reason for that is we would like to see what the ending fund balance is of both the county and schools. And if they were healthy enough, there would be an option where we would pull more from the fund balance, which would reduce our approximately 14.5% sharing with the city of Murfreesboro. That would be option B. So I can't tell you exact because it's all based on interest rates, but the refunding is dictating us going in the spring for this issuance.
Well, on the subject of the refunding, how will that help us long-term as far as our overall budget in years to come?
It would save us approximately $800,000 to $1 million over the next 10 years. It would shift the remaining 10 years of that bond issue from a 3.5% interest rate to approximately 2.5% interest rate.
Is that per year or the 10 years total?
That's just the true interest cost of that bond.
Other questions? Seeing none, we'll be on the board for this, so if you would, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
19 yes, 1 no.
Item 01C passes.
Mr. Chairman, the last item is actually for information only. It's basically the Physical Strength and Efficient Government Fiscal Confirmation Letter that is required from us to the state of Tennessee to remain in the 3-star program. And I'm not going to read through that for you, but basically what this is doing is proof of our cash flow that we can pay our debts or our debt service. One thing I want to mention, since we've been kicking around our debt, on our last issuance, because we are AAA bond rating, we have probably, and again, this could fluctuate, we're going to save at least $10 million because we're a AAA bond rating versus the next lower rating up to $20 million. So people that think that this AAA bond rating is not important need to look at that again. Anyway, thank you. That concludes my business here tonight, our budgets, and our next meeting is March the 7th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman P. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Pettis-Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I have no report, but our next meeting will be on Monday evening, February the 26th at 5:30.
Thank you. Health and Education Committee, Chairman Phil Dodd.
Thank you, Chairman. Our next meeting is February 27th, 5:30 p.m., and we are meeting in room 205 unless the committee chooses otherwise. One comment, if I may, Mr. Chair. I wanted to acknowledge to the full commission that those who are not on Health and Ed Committee, the Rutherford County School Board contributed $30 million in cash reserves to this Beatty school. And I think Trey Gooch commented in our meeting that we've never seen that before, for the county school board to reach that deep and to sacrifice that much to save the taxpayer and collaborate with this commission. So I wanted to put in the record that I commend them for that choice. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Dodd. Property Management Committee, Chairman Alan McAdoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next meeting is February 29th at 5:30. And I have nothing to report tonight except that I'm looking for a report from the county attorney on questions that was asked in the last meeting about our parking garage, and it's getting very sensitive over there, so I need that report.
Thank you, Commissioner McAdoo. Public Works and Planning Committee, Chairman Anthony Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no report tonight, but our next meeting will be March the 6th at 6 o'clock. And I'd like to just thank our employees that fall under the departments that report to our committee. Thank them for seriously bad weather that we had, the jobs that all of our employees did during that time, getting out in the cold, going through all the bad weather, slippery roads, whatever. But County Highway Department, fabulous job. Solid waste employees, landfill, convenience centers, got out there tromping through the snow, did a marvelous job. Planning and engineering, public codes, all of you that had to go in when others could stay home. We appreciate everything you did to keep our county safe and to serve us well. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson is once again on top of things, and the shout out that he just mentioned beats everybody else to the punch. That meeting date has changed from Tuesday, I believe it is, the 5th to Wednesday the 6th because of the county primary election. That is election day, I believe. So if you haven't voted, you can get out and vote early through next week, and the election day, I believe, is on the 5th. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee, Chairman Craig Harris.
The Canyon County had come to Chairman Phillips and myself and asked us for support for a bypass to be built around their downtown because they're having so much traffic, and they wanted us to support them. It came before the steering committee, it passed, and I'll read the resolution. Whereas Rutherford County has a strong and unequivocal support for the pursuit of bypass around the town of Woodbury, Tennessee and Canyon County, recognizing the growing traffic congestion and associated challenges within the town, we believe the construction of a bypass is crucial for its overall well-being and development of the community. And whereas Canyon County has an integral part of our region, contributing significantly to the economic, cultural, and social fabric of our area. As the population continues to grow and transportation needs to evolve, it is essential to address the increasing traffic concerns in a thoughtful and proactive manner. Whereas the proposed bypass around Woodbury holds the potential to alleviate traffic congestion, enhance public safety, and improve the overall quality of life for residents and visitors alike. By diverting through traffic away from the town center, the bypass can create a more efficient, safer environment for local businesses, pedestrians, and commuters. And whereas Rutherford County commends Canyon County for its foresight in pursuing infrastructure projects that prioritize the well-being of its residents and contribute to the sustainable development of the region. The bypass project aligns with our community's commitment to promoting economic growth, ensuring public safety, and preserving the unique character of our towns and cities. Therefore, Rutherford County formally adopts this resolution in full support of Canyon County's efforts to construct a bypass around the town of Woodbury. We urge all relevant authorities to expedite the necessary approvals and funding for this essential infrastructure project. Resolved this 15th day of February 2024. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Now questions, comments?
I have one question.
Commissioner Piercy.
There's already a bypass around a portion of Cannon County. Is this a redo? Is it an extension of that bypass, or do you know?
Mayor Greg Mitchell has worked on this project for a while, and he's asked for our support in taking a resolution to Nashville to get that bypass, and this would be a 4-lane bypass completely around the city of Woodbury. It would connect the 4-lane highway from Murfreesboro to Woodbury and from McMinnville to Woodbury. There are 4-lane highways. 2 of them are the one in on the other side of Woodbury connecting Warren County is relatively new. It's only a few years old. This requires zero money on our part, and all we're trying to do is help them get on the state's budget for this project. They know it's, if approved, it's years in the making, if not decades. But they have to start somewhere, and they're wanting to take a resolution to Nashville, to the Department of Transportation, to get this project approved and on some type of a long-term plan. I don't know what bypass you're talking about, but what they're trying to do, Commissioner Piercy, is just bypass the downtown area, which has become congested simply because of the 4 lanes on each side of Woodbury funneling through a 2-lane process in the downtown area.
Just to clear the air, I'm in full support of this, but there is a bypass coming out of Murfreesboro into Woodbury to the right, and it circles around, and it does avoid part of the downtown area. And I was just inquisitive to see if it was an improvement of that or a whole new bypass. But it really doesn't matter. I just asked the question.
It is
It's okay.
It is a question.
It's okay.
It's a question that I don't know how to answer. And if there already is, it's probably an extension of that or an improvement to that. Other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you.
Next meeting will be March 4th at 5:30 inside these chambers. And before I step down, I just want to tell Commissioner Oliver and Commissioner Romel that I try so hard to make it look like I can read these resolutions so easy. And we are proud of you and how y'all did it your first time.
It's another shout out. Other business, I just wanted to mention Election Day is on the 5th, and early voting is going on right now. So if you haven't voted yet, please do. And with that, you might have noticed our County Attorney, Nick Christensen, came in a little bit late, and he has an explanation why.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I had to deal with Nashville traffic. I just wanted to give a report to you. For the last 8 days, I've been in a jury trial defending Sheriff Fitzhugh in Rutherford County in a case that arose out of the investigation of the sale of certain products, CBD products, 6 years ago now. The trial started on Tuesday. There were numerous witnesses. The jury went back early this morning and deliberated for a number of hours, and we got a good result. It was a full defense verdict, and $0 in damages were awarded. So I just wanted to report the good news to everybody here.
Good job, Nick. Thank you. Shout outs.
Please.
Commissioner Oliver.
It's an announcement more so than a shout out, but the League of Women Voters are having an open forum on education, similar to the one they did in Smyrna. It's going to be in Laverne City Hall, March the 4th. So the public is welcome.
Job, thank you.
Chairman.
Commissioner McMurray.
Quick shout out. So I want to shout out to the name, some of you may or may not know, to Mr. Jawan Jennings. So If you watched the Super Bowl this past Sunday, he's a former Blackman High School standout and the University of Tennessee Vols standout. Right, he should have been MVP, but he was the second player, I think, in Super Bowl history to throw for a touchdown and to catch a touchdown. And had the 49ers won, he probably would have been the Super Bowl MVP. So that's just shows you that the product that Rutherford County, can put out when they go to these schools. And so I'm proud, for their representation, and I just want to give a shout out to him as well. And again, before everybody leaves, please take a lot of the peach cobbler, cookies, and the brownies that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Commissioner Reed.
Everyone, this is National School Resource Officer Day.
Oh.
And a shout out to all our SROs here in Rutherford County.
God, thank you. Other shout outs? Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we heard a rendition of the
National Anthem.
National Anthem, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I've heard it many times over my 72 years of living here, and I can't recall ever hearing a better rendition of that. It was excellent, and I really appreciate it. It was moving. I wished everyone could have, I wished everyone could do it correctly, and in my opinion, it was done correctly tonight. It couldn't have been done any better. Thank you, MTSU choir members that presented that to us. It's awesome.
Thank you. Other shout outs? Thank you. Commissioner James.
I just wanted to make a quick shout because of Celestial Delights here. After my long drive in, I do need that little pick-me-up, so I appreciate that.
Others? Once again, our next meeting will be on Thursday, March the 14th, and I would like to thank you for your attendance, for your inquisitive questions, for your participation tonight, and for us getting through this agenda with all the public hearings and things in a timely manner. Good job. I appreciate you. With that, we are adjourned.